Hey guys, my name is Josiah, and in this video we're going to learn about Webflow components. We're going to start with the basics with what they are, how to use one and set one up, and then we're going to take it to an advanced situation and see how we can really stretch the usage and level up your components inside of Webflow. So without delaying, let's get right into it. Inside of Webflow, you might have seen this components tab right here, and whenever you start out with any project, you're going to notice that this is blank, but we do have a few that I've already kind of set up, and the most common scenario you're going to have is maybe a nav bar and a footer. Really, to set one up, all you're going to do is right click on something, and then you're going to go ahead and hit create a component, and then you'll name your component whatever you want it to do, but we'll get into that here in a second. And essentially what components allow you to do is think of like atomic design, where you can really make small atoms, which are things like buttons and smaller parts of an overall system, and make one instance of it that can scale across everything, and then take it up to like an atomic design organisms, where essentially you can actually take something large like a footer and have the same version of it used across multiple places. And the cool thing about this is that when we make one change here, the change goes everywhere. But there are also some new things that didn't used to exist inside Webflow components that are there now, which I'll start to show you here in this video. So you're going to see I do have this really large header that there's a lot going on in here. I'm going to turn this into a component, and we're going to actually create dynamic usage of this component across the site. I'm going to start with a couple of things first. So with elements like this, where we have custom buttons, I really love to make components out of these. Whenever it's just a standard button, you really don't have to, unless you have some really custom complex animations on them. But when it's an element like this, I do like to make components, because if not, then I have to reset it up every time, add the classes, add the icons, or if not, and go back, copy it from your location, put it back here. So I don't want to deal with that. And you can see this is on a template page, because I'm going to get into that here in a second as well. But we're going to go ahead and right click here. I'm going to create this component. So I'm going to say button icon. Okay. So now this is a component. So everywhere we use this component, it's going to follow and mimic what we've done here. So if I add this on another page and I make a change on another page and so on, the button will match. But there are things that you can use dynamically without having to change the original component. And we're going to get into that right now. So if we double click this, we can edit, or if you hover over, there's also an edit button here. And you can see these little purple icons. Now these purple icons, just like the Webflow CMS, when it shows link things that are purple, it's the same thing here. We can actually link attributes to these dynamic components and create unique instances of these components in different situations. So like right now, I'm going to create visibility, but I'll get into it here in a second, actually. So we have a link. So let's go ahead and do that. Create a new link property. So I'm going to say button link, create a property. And then we also have button text here. So I'm going to do create a property. Cool. And I think that is going to be it, because actually later on, I'm going to do some more stuff here. So now we have this button, right? So now with this button, every individual instance, we can set its own link. So it can go to one page, and maybe it'll do contact us and so on. And then the text can be dynamic as well. So we can say build your home. Okay. And for context, this is a site for a home builder, and we're just starting up this project. So that's why I'm saying that here. Okay, so now this one button exists. If I delete that, it's gone, and I can go ahead and search that button back here. Oops. And that's in the wrong spot. So we'll drag it back in, and there's the button again. So we can bring it back up. I didn't have to add in classes or do all these things. The button is now here. And there's one more thing I can do here too. Let's say, for example, I want it to be extra dynamic, and I want to make this visible. So I'll say icon visibility. And now that's going to be dynamic as well. And so if that's hidden, then now it looks like a regular button. Pretty cool. And visible, boom, there we are. So now I can start to really create these dynamic components, and I can create another one, and you can see that I can make that hidden, and now I have one without and one with the button. All right. but I don't want a bunch of red buttons everywhere, so I'm gonna stop that for now. Okay, so now what I did here is I set up this element, all right, and this could live as its own element, and especially it being on a template page, it would kind of template across this, it would template everywhere, but I actually want to use this hero section in a bunch of different places on the website and in different versions, okay? I want to use one with a call to action to drive in some marketing. I want to use one with a simple button call to action elsewhere if I have a paragraph. And then in this instance, in this project setting here, and this is a collection for showcasing a house, I want to use a version that's going to have details about the house here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to head up here to my overall, the parent, okay? And I'm actually going to create a component out of this. So, okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to go ahead and create a component, and I'm going to name this hero header. Boom. And now we have a hero header, and this can be duplicated across the site anywhere I need it. Now there are a couple things I'm going to want to do to this. So whenever I don't always need to use these sections, I want to take these out. So I'm going to make my visibility dynamic as well. So I'm going to do sub header paragraph. Okay. And then I'm going to do one for home details visibility. Another one here for, form CTA visibility. And then I'm going to use this last one for button group visibility. And so you might notice that we have a button here as well, and this is already a component. And so in Webflow, we can actually stack components within components. And now the great thing there is that, again, looking at the atomic principle, is that we can build these large components, taking smaller components, and we make edits. They'll change everywhere if we want them. And this can also drastically speed up your workflow, that you don't have to go rebuild these whole sections and create different ones and make confusing names and changes. You can actually stack these components on the inside, and you know when you change your button in one instance, because you're going to change it for whatever reason, that it's going to follow everywhere, and you don't have to go track it and hunt it down again. Okay, now the next thing here. So there are a couple of things we're going to want to do too. So this is an image, so I'm actually going to do image. I want to make this dynamic as well. I want this to load in here, and so anytime I need to use this elsewhere on the site, I want to be able to change the image as well. And then we have visibility, which I'm actually going to leave alone because this is always going to exist like this. So now I think our component is set up. So now we're back out. We see we have the hero header here. And now we have a couple of properties. Now, one of them, we can actually link this image on its own or change the image. We can do make things visible and hidden. So now you'll see that, okay, in this page, I only want to use, like I mentioned, this middle section here. The rest of them can go. Now here's the next cool thing. Whenever I actually make these hidden, so my home details visibility, oops, sorry, I need that visible. Make that invisible and make this hidden and this hidden. Whenever I make these areas hidden, that this is actually going to remove them from the DOM. So whenever you make these hidden on here and you go inspect the site later on, they're actually not even rendered, they're gone, which is going to be great for SEO and performance. You can actually create these pretty intense components and then know that they're going to be really simple, implemented really simply whenever you launch the site and publish it later on. So I can actually probably show you an example of that here. So now this one is invisible. We're going to come up to it here, and then we're going to inspect. And you'll notice that, actually, if that's the image itself. Set the container. Yep, that's it. It's only these two divs, and that's it. That's a simple element. So they're not even rendered. Again, great for speed and simplicity, performance reasons. And the search engines are going to love that. So now we have the component and how we're going to want to use it. All right. So there are a couple of things we can do here. Actually, I do in this instance, I do want to also be able to change my text as well. So I'm going to say hero text. I'll say heading text, I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Now I've unlocked that attribute and I can now change that. So you can see testing. And then if I go back to edit the original component, here's the original name here. Okay, but there's some other things we can do here too. So this can exist like this, and this can be a static element, and that's great. So if I want to use this on another page, I can actually go back to, let's just say, the contact us page, okay? And it's an empty page. So we can search and find our nav bar, all right? And then in my main section here, I can find my hero header again, and you'll notice that I have a fresh instance. And maybe in contact us, this is not going to be the case for this website, but I'm just showing an example. I can do the same thing. So maybe here I just want to have, I will go ahead and keep the subheader. I will remove the details, and I'll keep the form and remove the button there. And there we go. So maybe, so start a your dream home with us. Okay, great, perfect. So that's an example of a static instance. But in this case, we're going to actually show how we can continue to use these in dynamic instances as well, so they work elsewhere on the site. So in this example, we're going to go ahead and grab this text, and we're going to link it to a project, or we're going to link it to the collection item as well. So I want the name. So now you'll see I have the dynamic collection name listing here too. And I can actually, I do need to access these two. So I need to create properties here. So we're going to say square footage value. Okay. And then I need to do bedrooms value.
I know, but I don't know about this.
And then we got bathrooms value. And then we're going to have garage value. Cool. All right. Now the reason why we have those is so we can access them here as well. Same thing. I'm going to grab our square footage number, and that's going to link. Awesome. That's a 94,000 square foot house. So pretty big house. We're going to have bedrooms, and we're going to have bathrooms, and then we're going to have, let's see here. Okay, I'm missing the garage one. That's okay. So, all right, guys, we have a 94,000 square foot house with 44,000 bedrooms, 87,000 bathrooms. Sounds pretty cool, right? Now, same thing here. We can actually grab our main project image, okay, and that is going to switch over. And I do actually have a couple of adjusted ones here. Great. So I do have this example of a home, and there is one more that I do actually have set up for a home. Okay, great. And a modern one here. So now this works for this. All right. And then when I go back to that contact us page, that works for the content that's there too. So you can see how we have different instances of this one component to be able to use elsewhere in the site for different usage without having to rebuild, recopy everything. You'll know that anytime you make a change here, it's going to be able to go across the changes that you need it to on the rest of the site. So now we know how we can set up components and how we're going to want to use them. So let's actually level these up a little bit with a little bit of custom code, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually level these components up with attributes. So you might notice that I can't actually go change the classes inside of here unless I go into edit this component and then start changing things in here, but I don't want to do that because maybe there's sometimes I want it to look one way and then other times I want it to look a different way. And that's the case for this project. So what we want to do is kind of immerse this client in with the style of this home, since they are able to build versatile homes. In this example, we have a real contemporary style home. And then in another example, we have a more traditional farmhouse style home, and we want to match that as well. So we're going to make some tweaks here. I'm going to start off with the body. Okay. So the body is already going to be linked. I have my background attributes, and I'm linked it to a page style. So what I did in here is I'm going to go into my projects, and you'll notice that I have a drop down as page style, and we have modern, traditional, farmhouse, and so on. Okay. Same thing, farmhouse, and all that fun stuff. So what I'm going to do to simplify a couple of things here is select these, and then I'm going to actually delete these and just keep the two. Cool. Farmhouse, modern. Great. Okay. So now we have the two. Simple. All right. So let's make some adjustments. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to edit my original component, and you can do this either before or after you edit, no big deal. And I'm actually going to add a custom attribute. So I'm going to do font style, and then let's see here, create a new property. So I'm going to say font style. Cool. Now I can access that. What else do we need to change here? I think that might be our only style that we're gonna touch here. Okay. Cool. So now you might notice that I do have the garage value visibility here. Let me double check. Right here. I do have it up top, font style. All right. And right now this is going to be, I can type in whatever, literally, but I don't want to do that. I want this to actually follow and be dynamic with the page style we're going to give it inside of the CMS. And so you can actually scale this idea up further than this and get extremely complex, but I'm not doing that in this scenario, just in the overall look and feel. So let's go ahead and link this to the page style itself. Okay, cool. Now nothing's happened because we haven't done anything yet. So we're actually going to take some custom code. So we're going to do an embed. All right. And I am going to do a little bit of CSS. If I can type, that would be great. Okay. So we're going to put some CSS in here. We did an embed, so this is going to be on the page. Now, the reason why this is going to work out is because this actually is like one of the last ways the CSS loads, and then it takes over what was originally there. Similar to how whenever you do a couple of custom things and you put it inside of the page here of CSS, that's kind of how that works. So we want to access a couple of different things. Now, first, I do already have that body tag mentioned, or that body attribute made, and so I'm actually going to bring in a little bit of CSS for that background here, and I'm going to do a couple of different things. So we need to do it for the different instances that we're going to use. So I'm going to bring in background farmhouse, and actually then need a capital F because that's how I did it, and the background color is going to be that. So you'll see that once I hit save, then boom, my background color of my whole body page changes to this brand color here. Great. So let's go ahead and do a little bit more. So now we need to go ahead and do the same thing for the other style. So we kind of want this one to feel a little warm, and now when we do a more modern one, we want that to be dark. And you can see that now it is dark. All right. And you'll notice that my text is also changed. So I did add in my color here, so that's dictating the page color. All of the font colors are going to be this color. A couple of things that aren't quite working, we're going to have to go ahead and fix as well. So let's go ahead and continue working on this. All right. So let's say I want to change that font color as well. If you remember, we do have the we did add in our font style, and I'm going to want to change that too. So I'm going to add that here. So I'm targeting our attribute, and when we write that, we're going to write our brackets, and then we're going to write the start of the attribute. So I put font style equals, and then this is the the dynamic element that we're referencing in here. So anytime it says farmhouse, it's going to have this CSS setting. And I have a font called Erode, and then I have a font weight that I'm setting as well. And that will then overtake what I've set for that hero section. Then boom, there you go. It is in there. And so we can do that for anything we want to style if we start to mess with that inside of here. So we'll continue on this path here. And now you'll see that on this page, I have this text color, or this text type, it looks like this. And on this page, it looks like this. Two completely different feelings, two completely different styles. And then if we go back to the contact page, just to show you again, this isn't touched at all. So again, beauty of components. Okay. So let's continue working on this a little bit more. Now you'll notice a couple of things are messed up in here. Like these, they're still black. I don't want those black. In fact, I need to change those because you can't even see them. So we're going to go ahead and target these as well. So we're going to continue just writing a little bit of CSS. And don't be afraid of writing CSS if you haven't before. You'll kind of get used to it. I know it can be tricky trying to find the values. And one little trick you can do is you can actually... let's say you want to make a change to something in here, okay? So I'm going to edit the original, and then let's say I'm going to add in, heading style 4, right? And it gets real small. Webflow does have a neat little trick. You can do CSS preview, and it can actually view the styles for that element that you just created. So you can copy to clipboard and then access those as well. And you can do that so anything you want to change in here, you'll start to have access to and see it come up inside of that CSS preview. So if I start to add, let's see here, I don't know, if I make this right aligned, you'll see that, okay, boom, text line right, but I don't want to do that. Okay, so again, a neat little trick if you are going to get, are not used to writing CSS, plus AI is your friend nowadays, you can ask it to do certain things for you. Okay. Back to our code here. So we've targeted our fonts, we've targeted the background, but now we need to get pretty specific in our elements here. So what I'm going to do is actually target that, I'm going to target this element inside of here. So if I go back, if I look at this, this is called header detail item, and this has a bottom border of black, right? And I'm going to go ahead and write my CSS to target that. So I'm going to do my background modern. So anytime it's modern, I'm going to find, so how you do this is if you want to do a combo class, you take out the space. But if you want to find a child element with this class name, you'll put a space and then you'll type in that CSS. And all I'm doing here is I'm just changing the border color. I know there's probably other CSS properties in there, but I'm only going to override the border color. And I'm going to save and close that. And I changed that to red, which is one of the brand colors in here as well. Great. So now we have that. But let's go ahead and come back here. And you can see that this is black. Again, two totally different feelings. This is red. Cool. So we're going to do a couple of other things as well. So let's say I want to... I have a button in here like we did, and we want those to change as a part of the overall style as well. Now we can do that. So I'm going to make my button group visible back here. I'm going to give this a text. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm going to change the text here. Where are we at? Okay, so my button is visible. So I'm going to say in this instance, let me make sure. Okay, button text. Garage value, button group visibility.
Lead so sprayly and there might be a grace no some about you.
Okay, we got to change that in here. So my button text, I'm going to say, build your home. Okay. Cool. So maybe that's what we wanted to say in this example. But maybe, it's red here and it's red here. Maybe we don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and, again, write a little bit more CSS, and we can start to really make these dynamic based on the page properties. So what we're going to do here is, again, we're going to target the button. Okay, so I'm going to grab this. And so the same way I did this here, I'm actually going to target these here. So anytime the button exists with background modern, I actually want it to be yellow. And in fact, let's do that. And then boom, now anytime the page exists like this, my buttons are yellow because that's just what I want for this this view here. And you can see that there's not much going on. There's no little styles or anything, but maybe I want these to hover and be hover to red, because I think now they're originally red. So we need to fix that in a little bit of CSS as well. And what we'll do is grab, I'll keep this next to it because I want that to exist. So that's going to be referencing our state, and then I want that to be my red color and change my font color and so on, right? And boom. Now what I did here and why it transitions is actually when I edit this components and go back to my styles here, I did already set a transition for all the properties, and so it transitions. And so it takes it there. Okay, so these are done there. But if I go back here, you'll notice that, well, there's no hovering because they're set to red. So we'll just now need to do the same thing for the other one here. So if we do our button hover, whenever it's a farmhouse design house or page, I'm going to do this close up to my farmhouse. Where's that? Background modern. Okay, just because I want to keep these organized. Okay, there you go. Now this hovers to yellow. So you'll see that I now have two very different, again, styles and designs going on here. Cool. And you'll even notice that on this page, my button is showing, and on this page is not showing because of, oh, sorry, it is showing. Scratch that. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, cool. So now we've built this really dynamic component that just gives us a lot of different looks. So it's, it's going to have our 10 page on here, and then we go to our modern home, we view that. It's going to look real sleek and then be black, more contemporary feel. And then we're going to go to contact us, and then it's going to look completely different. And you can still take that same concept if you want to create more unique experiences. And then you can actually do our embed again. I'm going to put that back into our page here. And I'm actually going to make this find. Okay, cool. I'm going to do duplicate class. I'm going to do some CSS. Just name it that. Why not? Okay. And I'm saving you the time here, but what I'm going to do is, let's just say I have this main wrapper or my page wrapper even. I'm going to give this my background color of light. All right. And so now it's going to look like that. So my whole page is going to have this background color, and everything inside of it is going to have that. So what we can actually do is take a lot of those same principles. Instead of using attributes, I'm just going to target a class. So instead, you'll see that I have my background color black. I have, actually that code won't work because it doesn't have my dot. Background modern, button hover. Okay, cool. All right, so now we have our new code running in here as well. So let's say, you know what, I'm not liking that after all. Maybe I want to do background color dark, right? Which I had it as, I think, dark gray. Yeah. Or black, actually. Yeah, so maybe I want to do that. And then boom, it changes in here as well. So you'll see that it did fix that in here. So that's just kind of like making your things work a little bit more dynamically. And again, if I take this hero section and I place this outside of here, you'll notice that it looks like this, right? So these two very different instances, now we have two different looks. Again, one more time, just showing how versatile we can actually make these. And just like on the other one here, we can go to our settings and then we can access all of our text. So there's the font style again if we want to, but we're not going to change that. You know, we're accessing square footage stuff. We're not going to touch those as well. And then let's see what else we can replace the image. So let's say I want to, use this image here as a part of that contact. It's a little blurry, but no big deal here. Or go back to this modern one. Or maybe I want a darker one, right? Maybe I want to be less distracting. And one more detail you can actually do in here is you can actually add collection items inside of your components as well. Now, I don't have a use case for this today, but that's something we can still do here. So maybe we can say, I can take this component and I want to add a collection list. We can do that. Maybe I want to reference my projects and I only have my 2 projects in here. Again, that can be in there too. So then those can be shown. But again, I don't have a use for that, so I'm not going to do that in this example. But it's cool. Let's say you have, a component made for like, a blog post section. You want to use them elsewhere. You can actually have your collection items in there and not have to try to copy it over everywhere. But I hope that give you a better understanding of what you can do with components, how simple and easy they can be, and also how powerful they can be when it comes to really wanting to level up and create these different experiences without having to always rewrite classes, copy things over, and remember what you've done and flip back and forth between pages. You can just use these components, create these atomic designs, and make a really dynamic and reactive site with a little bit of extra input. So let me know if you have more questions about either how to use some of this custom code or components themselves, and I'll see you guys in the next one.